I don't think I need to tell you that Five Nights at Freddy's is one of the biggest and most impactful horror games, if not games, of all time. Even my mom knows who Freddy Fazbear is. With over 10 games and 2 feature films, the impact that this series has had can't be put into words. Seriously, try to put this into words. But today I want to take you on a thought experiment journey, a little peek into an alternate timeline where we ask the question, what if Markiplier never encountered Golden Freddy? Markiplier is often credited with being part of the reason that Five Nights at Freddy's exploded in popularity the way it did. Mark's first Five Nights at Freddy's video is currently sitting at 127 million views. And to be fair, I know I'm not the only person who's watched that video over 20 times, but that's still more views than my entire channel 50 times over. Five Nights at Freddy's released on August 8th, 2014, and Mark's first video on it went up only 4 days later on the 12th. But what's important here is Mark's second FNAF video, uploaded the next day on August 13th, titled, "Was That Golden Freddy? Five Nights at Freddy's Part 2. At 15 minutes and 13 seconds in, Mark got the extremely rare 1 in 100,000 chance for Golden Freddy to spawn.
See you on the flip side.
Ah, fuck you! Oh god! What the fuck? What the fuck, okay?
Okay, technically because blah blah numbers, blah blah integer overflow something, the chances are actually closer to 1 in 35,000. Go watch It's Taken's video if you want a full breakdown. But it's still pretty damn rare. Not only did Mark get this extremely rare encounter, he was one of, if not the first to. The only other early Golden Freddy encounter I could find was from a YouTube channel called Zum, who uploaded their own Golden Freddy video on the same day as Mark. What are the chances the biggest YouTuber covering your game is also the first person to get its rarest event? Also, in the game files, Golden Freddy is referred to as Yellow Bear, which means it's entirely possible Markiplier was actually the one who coined the term Golden Freddy. If people weren't hooked on FNAF before, they definitely were now. It wasn't just another scary game anymore. There was a mystery to solve, and FNAF 1 was filled with vague breadcrumbs pointing to the story, and I think you can tell where I'm going with this. On October 3rd, 2024, the game theorist MattPat tweeted out, "It's October. Time for some scary theories. Which one of these guys would you rather see a Halloween theory on?" Accompanied by a picture of Slender Man, which was also huge at the time, and Golden Freddy. I don't think I need to tell you who won that vote, and MattPat released his first of now 126 videos on Five Nights at Freddy's on October 23rd, 2014, which hooked even more people on the game's hidden story. But what if Mark had never encountered Golden Freddy? Would less people be interested in Five Nights at Freddy's stories, and would Slender have won that vote? I remember hearing that the vote was close somewhere, but I can't exactly find it anymore. I'm getting the citation on that. Would MattPat have ever made any videos on Five Nights at Freddy's? And maybe the hidden story would have faded into obscurity. Now it's time to get real for a second. The most important thing to happen after Mark's encounter was not the game theory video, but instead, on September 12th, 2014, Scott Cawthon released the first teaser for Five Nights at Freddy's 2. The sequel was released later at a shocking speed on only November 10th, only 2 weeks after the original game theory. FNAF 2 was important because it tripled down and had way more story and hidden lore than Five Nights at Freddy's 1 ever did. MattPat released his second game theory on December 9th covering all of the juicy details. If people weren't interested in FNAF's story before, they were now, and the rest is history. A very complicated, confusing, Funko Pop-filled history. Now, do I think that if Mark had never encountered Golden Freddy, that Five Nights at Freddy's 2 wouldn't have been made? No. The game also had the notoriously difficult 2020-2020 mode going for it, and I think was popular enough to warrant a sequel. But if Markiplier never encountered Golden Freddy, maybe people wouldn't have been as interested in the game's story. Maybe FNAF 2 would have focused less on the story and dove more into gameplay. What if Slender won MattPat's vote and he never made any Five Nights at Freddy's videos? Maybe Scott would have stuck with the original plan and Five Nights at Freddy's 3 would have been the last one. Maybe Scott would have stuck with the original plan and Five Nights at Freddy's 4 would have been the last one. It's truly impossible to say, but I truly think had Mark not gotten the extremely rare encounter with Golden Freddy, that Five Nights at Freddy's would not have skyrocketed to the popularity that we see it at today. Overall, I like to think the popularity heights that FNAF reached was a good thing, in part to the fact that it inspired so many people to get into game creation. If you search GameJolt on Google, the first sub-result is for GameJolt's FNAF tag, where you could find thousands, I kid you not, thousands of Freddy fan games, and I think that's pretty cool. Well, as always, if you like this video and you want to support what I do here, make sure you like and subscribe, and maybe leave a comment letting me know how you feel. But until I see you again, stay hydrated, and farewell. The sequel was released.